As the title suggests, one X2 is considerably better than the other X2. Which one am I talking about exactly? Well, you will know at the end of this video, obviously. I'm gonna keep this one very simple and short. Okay, at least I'll try to. So let's go ahead with the comparison. Some disclaimers before we start. Number one, I did not get the Poco X2 review unit. I think I'll be getting it in a couple of days. So I used the Redmi K30 that was launched in China in December, which is exactly the same as the Poco X2 if you guys didn't know. It's identical except for the branding, of course. Number two, this is a technology jog style comparison, so I will not focus on features that are pretty much the same on both phones because they will not or should not affect your buying decision. Other features that are different on both phones will be explained in detail. For example, I'll definitely talk about the camera performance because one X2 is easily better than the other X2. But I'm thinking of skipping things like the design. Okay, I'll talk about it briefly, but I'm just saying everyone uses a case anyway. Or maybe you should also check out some skins from our sponsor, Capes India. They're super cool. They come in a variety of colors and textures, so there is something for everyone. They also have virtually zero thickness and weight. You can even add a transparent case on top if you want. The quality is also top notch, and yet they are affordable. Of course, Capes skins are available for a lot of other phones as well. So do check out Capes India, link in the description. Use the promo code TJOG to get 10% discount. So yeah, I'll refrain from talking about call quality, Bluetooth and GPS performance because in my time with these phones, all of those features performed equally well on both. Wi-Fi though is slightly better on the Poco X2. An internet speed test side by side reveals the Poco X2 sucks up all the bandwidth, which means when there are other devices on the same Wi-Fi actively using the internet, the Poco X2 is likely to be faster. Now, even the performance of these phones is not really worth talking about. Snapdragon 730G on both phones, it performed exactly the same during all my gaming sessions on these phones. I played a bit of PUBG and a lot of Call of Duty, and neither phone struggled at any point of time. Fantastic gameplay. One thing worth noting, in the speed test I did recently in the video rendering round, the Realme X2 performed much better. It was 50% faster. But on the other hand, the Poco X2 has insanely good RAM management or background app management. No matter how many apps you open, the Poco X2 keeps everything in memory. 16, 18, 20 apps, and it still doesn't break a sweat. There's another difference, just on paper. It's the presence of a liquid cooling system on the Poco X2. It does prolong the heating process and also maintains warm temperatures instead of getting hot. But the Realme X2 doesn't get hot either. They're both very much usable. And with the case on, you would notice absolutely no difference. So yeah, performance is not something you should worry about while deciding between the two phones. But cameras are a whole different story, like I said earlier. Don't get me wrong, 50% of the time, approximately of course, both phones capture really good pictures, equally good pictures. But the remaining 50%, say during challenging conditions, the X2 struggles quite a bit. Here's what happens. The biggest downside would be the color reproduction. It oversaturates everything to the extent the colors change entirely. Orange becomes red and red becomes pink, and due to its aggressive noise reduction algorithm, it also smudges up the image. As a result, the details are lost. It's also worth noting that the Poco X2 uses Sony 64MP IMX 686 sensor, while the Realme X2 uses the 64MP Samsung sensor. And the 8MP ultra-wide-angle camera on the Realme X2 is even worse. It smudges up even more details. The Poco X2's ultra-wide camera is noticeably better in these cases. We also have a dedicated 2MP macro camera on both phones. The difference is obvious here. The Poco X2 can get a lot closer to the subject than the Realme X2 can. The Poco X2 is superior even in dim lighting conditions. Look at the middle of this tree, the side of the car, this tree bark, the sky in this one. In every case, the K30 performs better, producing detailed images with bright and clear shadows. The X2 doesn't really capture as much details. Look at the road here, it's totally smooth and smudged up. You can enable night mode on both phones and things become better, But the difference remains somewhat the same. The Poco X2 still captures brighter shadows with better details. The only saving grace for the Realme X2 is the selfie camera, which is considerably better than the Poco X2's 20 megapixel selfie camera. Good colors and balanced skin tones. Video recording is Poco's territory again. It supports stabilization at 4K resolution. It's a lot more stable. Poco's footage is also noticeably sharper. Also, I tested all the slow motion options, and in every single mode, the Poco X2 performed better. Guys, both sensors are almost equally capable. It's just the software processing that's causing such huge disparities, and that's definitely something Realme has to work on. Because you don't just want your camera to click good pictures 50% of the time, you want to rely on it all the time. Speaking of relying on something, the Poco X2 has a 4500 mAh battery compared to 4000 mAh on the Realme X2. Now, at 60 Hz, the Poco X2 lasted a day and a half on a single charge. And at 120 Hz, yes, it's got a super badass 120 Hz display, it lasted one full day on moderate usage quite easily. And even though the Realme X2 has a slightly lower capacity battery, it still lasted almost as long as the Poco X2 did at 60 Hz. There was about a 30-minute screen on time difference, but that's it. Now, what's surprising here is the Poco X2 charges its 4500 mAh battery faster with the 27-watt charger than the Realme X2 charges its 4000 mAh battery with a 30-watt charger. You can get a full charge in just about 68 minutes on the Poco F2, while the Realme X2 takes another 5 or 10 minutes. Now, I know the Poco F2 lasts only a day at 120 Hz, but come on, it's got a 120 Hz display. That counts for something, right? 120 Hz LCD display though, while the Realme X2 has a 60 Hz AMOLED display. Now, there's been a huge debate about this. 120 Hz LCD or 60 Hz AMOLED? Well, here's my take. Not every AMOLED panel is as good as the AMOLED panel on a Galaxy Note or a Galaxy S. So I would definitely prefer a 60 Hz iPhone to a 120 Hz Redmi mid-range phone. The difference in image quality will be easily noticeable. But here, well, yes, there are minor differences, but trust me, it's only when you place them side by side. I mean, look at it. Do you really see that big of a difference? Part of the reason is the Poco X2's LCD display has support for HDR10. Although it's not possible to watch HDR videos on Netflix, it's only possible on YouTube. But the point is, the refresh rate is something you can easily notice even when you don't place them side by side. 120 Hz is like super smooth, even smoother than 90 Hz, it's much more noticeable. But here's the problem. The Poco X2 stutters a bit at 120 Hz setting. On and off, you can see frame drops, even just regular swiping and scrolling through social media, and in the user interface itself is kind of laggy. It struggles to push all 120 frames every second. So almost half the time, personally, I preferred using it at 60 Hz. I would ideally prefer 90 Hz, but unfortunately, there is no 90 Hz option in settings. Hopefully, we get it soon via an update. So basically, what I'm saying is, if it runs well at 120 Hz, then it's a no-brainer. I would pick a 120 Hz LCD panel over 60 Hz AMOLED any day, as long as the display quality itself is not very different. Speaking of hot debates, MIUI versus Realme UI is also one such topic. I know Realme UI is not yet available for the Realme X2 yet, but it will be, and I've used it on the Realme C3 and it's pretty impressive. Cleaner than ColorOS, feels faster, snappier, less cluttered, and definitely more visually pleasing. MIUI 11 on the other hand is pretty good too. Some nice improvements over MIUI 10. Both Realme UI and MIUI 11 have some unique features. Realme UI, for instance, dark mode, focus mode, similar to Zen mode on OnePlus phones, 3-finger selected screenshot, using which you can crop the screenshot directly without any extra effort or any additional step. And then dual mode music share feature, using which you can connect a pair of wireless earbuds and wired earphones simultaneously. And of course, the audio plays on both earphones. And MIUI 11 has a document viewer with preview thumbnails, which was actually quite useful in my usage, customizable always on display and lock screen, and so on. It's just a matter of preference at the end of the day. I won't really give this round to anybody. Both UIs display ads That's something worth noting. And Realme UI will be available for the Realme X2 only in March. Now, usually we don't see a lot of differences in the build and design of any two phones in the same price segment, but that's not the case here. The Poco X2 is slightly thicker, much bigger and heavier than the Realme X2 because there is a 6.67-inch display on the front compared to 6.4-inch on the Realme X2. You may also have noticed the Poco X2 has a punch hole selfie camera setup, while the Realme X2 has a dewdrop notch. Now, normally I would prefer a punch hole setup, but not in this case because it's a huge cutout. Why? Because it has two cameras. Is the second camera an ultra-wide camera for group selfies? No, it's a stupid depth sensor. The only reason for its existence that I could think of is they just wanted to make the phone look exactly like the Galaxy S10 Plus. Otherwise, I really don't know why, at a time when every brand is trying to maximize the screen to body ratio, Poco would do something like this. So yeah, except for this one annoying design choice, everything else is perfectly good about the Poco X2. It definitely looks better than the Realme X2 with the circular gradient patch around the cameras and whatnot. In terms of build, Poco is pretty heavy actually. One of the reasons is it uses a metal frame while the Realme X2 uses a plastic frame. We've got Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and the back of both phones for protection. That's a good thing. In addition to that, the Poco X2 is also splash resistant. I wouldn't rely on that for anything though, just saying. Now, the Realme X2 has an in-display fingerprint scanner which works really well. It's super fast. The Poco X2 on the other hand has a side-mounted fingerprint scanner. It's actually very convenient and extremely fast. I loved using it, but if you're left-handed, it's gonna be super annoying. Other miscellaneous features include the IR blaster on the Poco X2 and the dedicated micro SD card slot on the Realme X2. Dual LED flash on the Poco X2, single LED flash on the Realme X2. Not that anybody uses flash anymore, but just saying. Like I said at the start, other things are pretty much similar on both phones. Call quality, cellular reception, loudspeaker quality, Bluetooth performance, GPS performance, and so on. So here's what the comparison looks like in a single page. Now, perhaps the biggest difference in this comparison would be the price. The 4GB RAM variant of the Realme X2 costs 17,000 rupees, while the 6GB RAM variant of the Poco X2 is 1,000 rupees cheaper. That's crazy good pricing by Poco. If you're looking at 6GB RAM on 28GB storage, the Poco X2 is 2,000 rupees cheaper. Considerably better camera performance, better battery life, faster charging, better build quality, larger display, 120Hz refresh rate. I know it's not perfect, but with a bit more optimization via updates, it can get a lot better. The Poco X2 is the better choice overall in terms of value for money. But if you really want that AMOLED display, if you don't want a huge and heavy phone, if you prefer in-display fingerprint scanner, basically if these are deal breakers to you, then of course using the Poco X2 will be a pain. The Realme X2 is the one for you. Do let me know if there is anything else you want to know about the phones. Also let me know if you'd like to see a Realme C3 versus Redmi 8A or Redmi 8 comparison. I'll get it done. Guys, it took a lot of time to get this video done, so please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon only if the video was helpful to you. That's it. Thanks for watching. This is Ashwin Sundar and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.